There's William and Mike.
So good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me and you can see us all. All right, lovely to have you here this morning. We'll just give it maybe another minute or so just to allow a few other people to join us, and then we'll get started. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Nice to see you. Even though we can't see you, but it's nice to have you here with us this morning. My name is Dave Wilson-Wynn, and I'm the Senior Dementia Consultant within the Dementia Services Development Centre at the University of Stirling, and the very proud co-author of LGBTQ Inclusivity in Ageing and Dementia, alongside my rather wonderful colleagues, Arlen Burton and John Bond. So it's so lovely to have you here this morning. The aim of the webinar this morning, as you can see, your cameras are off and your mics are muted, purely with the sheer number of people that we had signed up to the webinar. It's trying to police questions as well as sharing viewpoints and us getting an opportunity to hear from you as well. So we're very conscious of the fact that you may have stuff that you're wanting to raise or questions that you may wish to ask. We will try and get to as many of the questions as we possibly can, but we would appreciate that you pop these in the chat. After the webinar has finished this morning, an email will be sent to you direct with both myself, Arlene and John's contact details should you have anything specific that you wish to ask us, and also dates for future training and things. So we're delighted to be joined by obviously guest speakers as well this morning. So it's lovely to welcome both William and Mike. So it's great to have you guys here as well. So the basis of this morning is to give you a little bit of an overview. It's not to provide you with the training. It's just to let you and inform you about what the outcomes of the training and why we've developed this specific resource. We know that the LGBTQ+ community faces unique challenges relating to both ageing and dementia, which can exacerbate existing disparities, particularly within health and social support. So we felt that it was our way of being able to hopefully make a difference to practitioners when they're supporting people from the LGBTQ+ community. I'm not going to waffle on anymore. I'm going to hand you across to my colleague, Arlene.
Thanks, Dave. Just to quickly mention, the chat is open, so feel free to put any questions in the chat. We do have someone who's sitting ready to respond to those, and we will also respond. So yeah, good morning, everybody. So my name is Arlene Bunton. I'll tell you a wee bit about myself to start with. So I am a professional doctoral student in applied social research on a dementia and ageing pathway at the University of Stirling. My research is studying the influence of intersectional identities and community dementia care relationships, specifically in spousal dyads, something of which I'm really, really passionate about. So in addition to being a full-time student at the university, I do hold some other roles. So I'm also a full-time independent sector lead for Scottish Care. Scottish Care is a membership body for the independent sector care providers. My role with Scottish Care is aligned to East Ayrshire's Health and Social Care Partnership, where I support 18 independently owned care homes and 6 independently owned care at home providers, as well as holding roles within the partnership itself. I'm also a research partner with Companion, which is a soft robotics company. which is looking to introduce soft robotics as environmental sensors and tools for self-management and companionship into social care to meet unmet need, to reduce isolation, and importantly, to inform care planning. And lastly, I am on the executive board of the Scottish Dementia Research Consortium, which is a group of researchers and academics who are committed to celebrating and promoting the work of researchers in dementia and nurturing and supporting future researchers. So quite a busy schedule, but I love it. So I have got about 20 years experience of working across the breadth of social care and social services, working in the early years with adults that are living in the community and struggling with mental health, on to being a homelessness casework officer, a support worker for adults with alcohol-related brain damage, a dementia advisor, care home management, and now with Scottish Care. So my work with Scottish Care is what started all of this off, really. So I was approached by a care home staff member who at the start of last year, who was supporting a man who was struggling with his identity. So the staff had not experienced this within the home before, and they were shocked to find that the other older adults were ostracising this man for being different. They asked me to arrange some training for them, and that is kind of what started off kind of my relationship in working with LGBT and dementia. So last year, as part of my job with Scottish Care, I applied for funding to the National Lottery to produce and deliver the LGBT specific training and to host Scotland's first ever Silver Pride event, which was to celebrate the diversity of older adults that we had access in social care in East Ayrshire. I was successful in that application for funding, so we hosted the event in July 2024, of which my colleague Dave here was speaking at, and it was attended by 187 older adults, as well as individuals from across social care, social work, Scottish Care and the local council. The event was covered by STV News, as well as many other news agencies, and it was really, really well received by everyone who attended. For me, I'm really grateful that I earned an award for dementia care in our diverse society at the National Dementia Care Awards, which was hosted by Dementia Community for this. But as I mentioned, the care home staff in particular were looking to receive training on how we can best support those who have got an LGBTQ plus identity, which I initially had responded to with a short 45-minute training resource, which was certified and completed by 229 direct care staff in East Ayrshire. But we were aware that this wasn't enough. So as part of my funding direction from National Lottery, this resource has been born. So I've partnered with Dave Wilson and John Bond, two very passionate dementia advocates, and we are bringing this resource on LGBTQ plus dementia and ageing to you. This has very much been a labour of love for us and one of passion for all three of us. But it's not just us. We've had input from those that are working within social care today in editing and driving this project. We've had input from those who are part of the community, and they have shared their stories with us. And through our resource, you will be able to read those stories. They're dotted throughout it as you go through the chapters. We've had guest writers from Jed and Gemma from No Barriers Here, who are experts in end-of-life care for those with queer identities. And we're really grateful to the Terence Higgins Trust, who's allowed us to utilise their guidance in living with HIV and dementia within our resource. So we all had particular areas of interest and were written on this within the booklet and within the training. So I aimed to give the readers an understanding of what dementia is, how the material changes within a person's brain impairs their cognitive and functional abilities, and how the early, mid and later stages of dementia might present in these changing abilities. My particular interest though was around about LGBTQ, which it gets harder to say it the more times you say it, LGBTQ plus history, from as far back as 1967, which is by no means the start of the story. But for me, it's where I've started, looking at the Sexual Offences Act being passed, and for the first time for a partial decriminalisation of legalised private sexual activity between two males in England and Wales, but only for those over the age of 21, so not in line with heterosexual counterparts. It's worth noting that this legislation only applied to males as well. Lesbianism has never been illegal in the UK. The law believed that the emotional connection was the reason for lesbianism and not any sort of sexual pleasure. I can't say that I agree with any of the feminist writers on this who say that sexuality is a social construct and it is constructed by men to suit men. So in Scotland, decriminalisation only took place in 1980, which is only 45 years ago. and 13 years after England had decriminalised it, but again, only for men over the age of 21. The age of consent was lowered to 18 to match that of heterosexual counterparts in 1994, which was led by a campaign by MP Edwina Currie, and it was only lowered to 16 in the year 2000. Protection against discrimination on the basis of your sexual identity only arrived in 2007 under the Equalities Act, and then only in 2014 was it legal to marry a same-sex partner. I found this absolutely mind-blowing when I started looking into it. It brought me to consider how this must impact on the older adults that we are caring for. So in Scotland, 65 tends to be the minimum age for admission to most of our care homes due to the funding for personal and nursing care and how that works. So that means that anyone who was born before 1965 has reached puberty and sexual maturation at the age of 15, 16, when it was illegal for them in Scotland to be in a same-sex relationship. So being heterosexual myself, I'd never thought about this history. I was never made aware of it. I was never discussed how sexual identities are different to mine had suffered. In working with in care, I'd never considered the impact that this experience must have on those that I thought I was advocating for, that I was empowering and that I was protecting. So the experience within the care home at the start of the year evidenced that stigma, the belief in these relationships and the loving connections being wrong, immoral, illegal, and that it very much still remains within our older adults. What this means for care is that we have got people that are living, well, we may have people living with us today in our homes who are on paper heterosexual. They may have a family, may have friends, but who may not be living according to their own preference, their own authentic self. I wish to create this resource to support our care sector, to empower our older adults to live authentically and to be who they were born to be without the fear of stigma and discrimination. My PhD interest is in the intersection of multiple social identities, whether advantageous or not, and that's what drove my further contribution in this resource. So your social identity are those collective assumptions and ideas that we make about ourselves and others based on observable characteristics. So things such as our age, our gender, our race, our ethnicity, our sexuality, of which are used and have been used and continue to be used for those with a queer sexual identity as a barrier to inclusion. So thinking about myself, we don't just have one identity. So I'm not just a female in isolation. I'm a female who spent most of her childhood and teen years in absolute poverty, who is educated, who is heterosexual, who's white, who is British, and I will benefit, whether consciously or not, from being white, for being British, for being educated, for being straight. But I will also be at a disadvantage in life because I'm female, because I originated from a housing scheme, from long-term unemployed parents, and lived in poverty. So this forms part of who I am, and that impacts the experiences that I've had in life, but it impacts how I see life and how my views on life are held. So older adults who identify as queer have experienced the multiple layers of discrimination for their age, for their gender, and for their sexuality, all of which will impact who they are, how they think, and how they behave. For instance, are they secretive? Are they withdrawn? Are they shy? Are they loud? Are they combative? Who you are forms your coping mechanisms and your strategies, which will be used across your life, whether knowingly or not. So as I said, this resource has been created with support from the social sector, informed by them and edited by them. It should be used to assist older adults to come to terms with their sexuality, to understand why the intersection of LGBTQ+ ageing and dementia has led to different life experiences and different needs. My hope from this resource is that people find strength in it, to challenge practice which has not been inclusive and to celebrate the diversity around us. And whilst I have the floor, before Dave red cards me and throws me off, I would like to read a really, really quick poem, which by anonymous, but I hope that you understand why I've chosen this. I think for my contribution to this resource, I think this poem really kind of encapsulates it. So the poem is called The Impact of Conforming and Longing for Connection. So in the quiet corners of his life, the older man navigates a delicate balance between authenticity and societal expectation. Each day, he dons a mask of conformity, engaging in conversations about family, about work, all while concealing the truth of his identity. The weight of his secret feels heavy, a constant reminder of the love that he yearns to express but cannot. He finds solace in the fleeting moments, an appreciative glance at a stranger, a shared laugh with a friend. Yet the fear of judgment looms large, casting shadows over his heart. In the solitude of his thoughts, he dreams of a world where we can embrace his true self without fear. But for now, he remains a silent observer, longing for connection and for a life that feels just out of reach. Thank you for listening to my contribution. I'm going to pass you on to John Bond now, PhD student and co-author of our resource.
Hi everyone, thank you for the introduction, Arlene. So yeah, my name is John Bond and I'm a PhD researcher at the University of Stirling. I've worked in dementia and social care for about 12 years in various roles, including frontline care, into supporting and training staff, and even helping moving on into policy development. My journey in this field has been shaped not only by my professional experience, but also by my personal experiences as well. And today I want to share why I've been involved in the co-creating of this training course with the Dementia Services Development Centre, and why this work is so vital. So throughout my career, I have witnessed firsthand the gaps in dementia care training, particularly regarding the needs of the older LGBTQ plus community. Training in this area is not mandatory across the UK, even though there are initiatives like the LGBTQ plus learning framework with Skills for Care in England. And this means that many professionals may lack awareness or understanding of the unique challenges faced by LGBTQ plus individuals living with dementia. And one of the pivotal moments that solidified my commitment to this project, and I was thinking back, was when I was working in a care home. A resident who identified as gay pulled me to one side and asked me to support them, basically to go back in the closet, as they feared discrimination in the care setting. And this was all over the person actually hearing members of staff making assumptions about my own sexuality, because I wasn't fully open. I was out to my manager and a couple of staff, but other staff were saying things about me in not nice ways, and this was overheard by a resident. So, and during this time, he felt he was going to get discriminated against, and he actually was starting to think back to the times when he was younger, when it was illegal to be gay as well. So this in turn led to me going into my PhD, where I'm exploring what it means to be a queer man living with dementia as well. But no one should have to erase their identity to feel safe. And yet this is the reality for many LGBTQ plus adults in care. It was a stark reminder that without proper training, care providers may unknowingly contribute to an environment where LGBTQ plus individuals feel unsafe or unsupported, and this can be done even unintentionally. So beyond those experiences of those who I have cared for, I have also faced homophobic bullying in my own career, in my own life, because I do identify as a gay man. And this reinforced my understanding of how deeply ingrained prejudices can be within care environments and other environments, and why systematic change is necessary. If discrimination can exist among colleagues, it certainly affects the quality of care provided to LGBTQ plus individuals. And for this course, I developed the literature review based around my research and the wider LGBTQ plus community, and the work focused on the intersection of dementia care and LGBTQ plus inclusivity. And through this and my professional experience, I have emphasised why training is essential for all those involved in dementia care, from care workers to policymakers. And I am hoping that this course addresses the gaps in those training, and then it's imparting a message to ensure that person-centred care is adopted. And everyone deserves that care and respect, and to support their identity, history and lived experience. And it's also about addressing challenging discrimination both in care settings and among professionals. And there needs to be a more cultural shift towards greater inclusivity. And this training is also about amplifying voices, and many LGBTQ adults have either been silenced or made invisible in care settings. And this course and others seek to change that. And it's also about bringing research into practice and providing an evidence base of why LGBTQ plus training is essential in dementia care and how it can be effectively implemented. So by co-creating this course, I hope to contribute to a more inclusive and understanding dementia care setting where, one, LGBTQ plus individuals are not just accepted, but fully supported. No one should have to choose between receiving care and being themselves. And it is a time for change, and I am proud to be part of this initiative. So thank you. Thank you for listening, and I'm going to pass you over to David.
Thank you so much, John. So thank you so much. My name is Dave Wilson-Wynn. I've already introduced myself, I think, but I'm the Senior Dementia Consultant within the Dementia Services Development Centre at the University of Stirling. And as I've already mentioned, I'm a very proud co-author of the LGBTQ plus Inclusivity in Ageing and Dementia alongside both Arlene and John. My background, I suppose, is both clinical and non-clinical experiences. So I've worked within the field of dementia care for about 18 years now, from acute care, emergency services as a clinician within the ambulance service to care homes, and also post-diagnostic level work. My role within the university, I suppose, has many different strands, from consultancy and providing advice and support to governments, local authorities, NHS boards, but not both just nationally, but internationally. We work with a whole series of different clients. And also some teaching responsibilities within the university. University of Stirling is the first university within the UK to have a specific mandatory module for undergraduate nursing and paramedic science students, to which part is their ability to understand good best practice dementia care, but also dementia design. And I'm pleased to say that parts of our LGBTQ plus resource will be included within that training programme to make sure that our nursing and paramedic students receive the most up-to-date education that they can. Overall, the training resource looks to identify and highlight the importance of support and care for individuals within the LGBTQ plus community by fostering a person-led approach to our care, always maintaining a person's identity and treating them with dignity and respect. Sadly, people within the LGBTQ plus community are underrepresented in both research and policy development. And this is our chance to ensure that their voices are heard, that we promote a culture within care practice which is truly inclusive. Some of the key issues that we've identified include the social isolation and lack of support, discrimination and stigma within healthcare, invisibility in dementia care, economic disparities, lack of culturally competent care, and intersectionality. So as an openly gay man, I take this resource very seriously, and I feel assured and reassured that we have played our part in doing something about these issues by, one, bringing them to light, hearing best practice examples in our training to help others. My role within the resource was to look specifically at the comorbidities, examining other health conditions that people within the LGBT community are sadly disproportionately affected by and they live with. When we look at now what we refer to as the modifiable risk factors of dementia, we see a high number of individuals within the LGBTQ plus community who are at elevated risk. Depression, isolation, alcohol and substances make up part of these risk factors. So our care and support should always be led by them. Anyone who's had some form of dementia training should be aware of the importance of viewing dementia as a biographical condition. So how we've lived our lives, our experiences, both the good and the bad, make us who we are today. And that can help us to interpret how an individual's presentation, particularly within everyday care practice. But individuals within the LGBTQ plus community have sadly faced a lot of discrimination. And we have to be aware of this, so our training resource brings to light, I suppose, not just all the doom and gloom, the issues that we faced with in the past, but actually how we can make a difference going forward when we're providing specific dementia care interventions. The other part was also to look at the amazing advancements within HIV treatment, which has led to us seeing more and more older people living with HIV long term. And of course, this is a huge cause for celebration. But when we think of changes to practice and how we really should have thought about this before now, we know that 8 out of 10 people living with HIV who are aging are concerned about memory loss and cognitive impairment in the future and how they would cope with managing multiple health conditions. The 88% have not made financial plans to fund their future care. That a third of the survey respondents within a survey which Terence Higgins Trust had put out were socially isolated. That 82% had experienced moderate to high levels of loneliness, and that 58% of older people living with HIV had moderate to high levels of HIV self-stigma. We hope that you find this resource useful, impactful, and above all, it challenges you to go out and make a difference. So on behalf of the LGBTQ+ community, who we all support and guide in some way, shape or form, it's an opportunity to say thank you. So I'd like to now pass on to William, if he's about.
Hello. So I'll do a wee bit of an introduction of myself first. So I am William McGregor, and I currently work as a regional director for a charity who predominantly manage nursing homes. I get to enjoy this setting because I'm just an observer and get to, I suppose, talk to Arlene as much as she'll allow me and probably talk the ears off for a bit. When Arlene mentioned this, I was really, really keen to get involved, especially after the Silver Pride event last year. I think for me, it's because when I look at our care homes, I know we try and do what we can to make a safe space for people, but I suppose everybody can agree we can always do that bit better. I think one of the things that I've only recently learned last week, I was asked if somebody from the community would speak to the STV News, and when I put it out to all the care homes, which is about 750 beds, I was told that we didn't have anybody who identified within the community, which I found really interesting, because I thought there is no way at 750 people that we support there isn't somebody within the community, which then makes me ask a bigger question. So I'm really excited and I'm really keen to get behind whatever Arlene asks me to do next, and happy to support in any way. So I think for me, there was a couple of things that I just listed that I suppose I wanted to speak about and why I believe this is a really, really important subject, not just because I'm gay, but because although people think we're there and, you know, people within the community have got all these rights, why they still harp on about it, there is a lot more to it than just what's written down in law. So one of the biggest things for me is I look at my daily life. I was born in 1987, so I grew up through the 90s, and it still wasn't really spoke about. I think the first trans person I ever seen or had heard of was a lady that was in Big Brother, and I knew I should have written her name down because it now escapes me. And then whenever it came to gay men, it was a TV and programmes, and I remember the big kick-up about the kiss in Coronation Street. I remember all these small things, and that was only 37 years ago. With me growing up with that, so I can only imagine what it must be like for people who currently live in the care homes or any supported facility. But when I was talking to Arlene last week, it really made me think about my personal life and my day-to-day. And I recently got married in November, and I really thought about what that meant for me and how important it was. And it was so important that language was right, and it became a big focal point in my wedding, that because although there was two men sitting in front of the people coordinating my wedding, they consistently said bride and groom, bride and groom, bride and groom, which tarnished it a wee bit for me. And me being as vocal as what I can be was extremely vocal on it. But it then made me think, well, how else am I impacted by being with a same-sex person? And it's things like showing public displays of affection. So if you want to go out and you're having a meal or whatever, I just wouldn't kiss Mark in a venue that I've maybe never been to before, or that I didn't really get a good feeling about, or if it was really, really busy, we wouldn't hold hands together. And I think it really impacted me when we went on our honeymoon, because when we went on honeymoon, I specifically chose San Francisco because I thought I'll feel very relaxed there, it'll be a nice city. But because how inherent it became in me, the fear of holding another man's hand in public, I felt like I couldn't relax enough even to do it in San Francisco. So when me and Alan started talking about this situation, I thought, well, what are we doing in care homes, and what will it mean for me? And for me, when I need to go into a care home, I want to be able to speak about my husband. I want to be able to speak about the things that we've done in life. I want to be able to speak about when we get married, what the day was like. I want to be able to have our wedding photos up in the bedroom walls. I want to know that the staff supporting me don't have any sort of a bias against me, or will make nasty comments or mistreat me just because of who I love. I want to make sure that the care home that I pick wants to support me, and I don't just become, something that helps the end of year budget figures. I want to know that actually the care home that they're operating does support people for our community, and they are ready for people in our community, and they have got policies and procedures and protocols in place that specifically protect us should anything go wrong. And then the other thing I really thought about when I was managing a care home a few years ago, there was a lady in it whose son always came, and when she first moved in, we didn't really think much of it. And then as her dementia progressed, she would often whisper when he left, that's my son and he's gay, but we don't talk about it, and I don't want anybody to know in here. And I just remember thinking how sad that must be for her not to be able to talk about her son, who she clearly loves, to fellow residents that she lives with. And then I took it upon myself to go into her room and kind of a look about, and could not find one photograph of her son, but found photographs of her daughter. And again, I think this is only my presumption, but my presumption was, well, maybe she doesn't want people to ask, oh, who's this? Or this is your son, and automatically say, does he have a wife? And do you have grandchildren by him? So I really want to get behind this conversation, and I love what you guys are doing. I love that you are trying to bring this conversation forward, because as much as people think we have all got equality now, so we need to be quiet, we've still got such a long road to go with us. And the T in the community, the trans community, one of the big things that we have been looking at the last year is how will we support people that are trans when they go into care homes if they then develop dementia? Will they regress to a point before transition? Will they regress to the point of, they're in the middle of transitioning? Or will they go back to a time where they are terrified that people will find this out? And at the minute, I can probably confidently say there's probably no providers out there at the minute that can 100% say, yep, we're ready, we've got the training in place, we know how we are going to support, we know what organisations we're going to work with. So I think for me as an observer, it's brilliant. I've probably spoke too much. I cannot thank you enough for asking me to take part and just to give my opinion and my view on it, but I am definitely excited to see what comes to it. So thank you.
William, thank you so much for that. Thanks for sharing your personal perspectives as well. we're equally as excited to have had your input into this, you know, and for you to be able to share and for attending Silver Pride, and for your passionate. And I know that within Sanctuary Care, it's something that you are really passionate about, and yeah, thank you so much. We are going to have John's about to introduce one of our guest speakers, and once Mike's spoken, we're going to have Janice Cameron share a wee bit. She's our national lead at Scottish Care, and after that, hopefully, we'll have a wee bit of time for any questions. So I'll pass over to John to introduce Mike. Thank you.
Hi everyone. So yeah, I would like to introduce Michael Parrish, who has been an unpaid carer, but also a director of the LGBTQ plus Dementia Advisory Group, which was set up back in 2022 now, I believe, Mike? Oh, I don't know. 1 second, let me just see. So hi Mike, are you there?
Finally. Sorry, I've got the cross buttons at the top. Hello, everyone. Yes, hello, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Shall I fire away?
Yeah,
okay.
fire
John,
away, Mike.
Please give me a little wave to let me know when my time is up, because I'm sort of messing around with bits of paper here just to make sure I'm on course. Thank you for the invitation. Again, I'd echo what William said. Wonderful thing that you're doing to raise this in a way that can be widely used, widely accessed, and hopefully change the way things are being done. Now, I'm going to go straight into what I was going to say, because I think I'd like to impart my own experience with a little bit of other stuff thrown in to give you an idea of what it's like. From my perspective, I'm 70 this year, my husband would have been 70 this year. We met in 1975 and had a wonderful, loving relationship until 2008. It was still loving right to the end, but it started to change in 2008 when, although with an HIV, and I won't go into that, but I'd love to talk a bit more about that another time, and they thought that he had HIV-associated neurological disorder. And that was picked up only because they did psychometric testing on a regular basis at his clinic. And so we wouldn't have known that anything was wrong, but they were detecting very slight levels of cognitive disorder of a kind. He was then, for 8 years, evolving this sort of problem with his memory, but we all thought this was down to a slight problem with his HIV. But by 2016, he saw a neurologist who said, no, this is something else. In fact, they first of all said, yeah, this is definitely to do with HIV. And then within another 3 years, he was given a diagnosis of cortical basal degeneration or supranuclear palsy, progressive supranuclear palsy, which are, I won't go into those, they're quite complex, you can look them up, but they present a whole range of physical and dementia issues. In 2018, he stopped speaking. Therefore, anybody in a situation with dementia, I would say, as a slight aside, needs an advocate. Every person with dementia needs somebody to be on their behalf. When you come to the LGBTQ plus community, we are much less likely to have a supporting partner in terms of the general population. We are less likely to have family and committed family to support us through the journey of dementia, less likely to have children. So we're already at a disadvantage when we enter the world of dementia. The fortunate thing in here is we had a long-term partnership, and I was committed to looking after them, but had no idea what caring really meant. I found out, in due course. Now, so here we are dealing with something where there's not much of a prognosis. Anybody who gets a dementia diagnosis doesn't get a plan to say this is what it's going to be like, how long it's going to last, how much work you're going to be doing. But I was determined to keep him out of formal care for the very reason that has been mentioned already, and that is because looking at research, I found that all over the world, not just in Europe, there are reports of abuse in care homes. And even quite recently, there's been a big case with the Ted and Noel film, which I know some of you will know about, and the report that accompanied that. So I was determined to look after, and I would have done anyway. You know, being a carer is being a loving partner as well. It's difficult to know when you never stop being a loving partner, but when does the caring start? Well, 2008 till 2022, when he passed away, was a long time to work out quite what our relationship was. You know, if you're changing, if he had double incontinence, at what stage is it that you're changing somebody's pants because of incontinence, that you realize that you're in a 24-hour, 24/7 job, as well as a loving partner, as well as the person keeping the house going, and as well as, and this is important, and then I'm going to come to some big issues around the specific care issue. When do you start also becoming somebody protecting them from all these dozens and dozens of different people that come in to attend to him? Now, he was at home. I was determined to keep him out of care for the reasons that have been mentioned. That doesn't mean there aren't people in care homes and carers who are supportive and loving and don't really care about LGBTQ+, and maybe even be celebratory and, you know, supportive and all the rest of it. We know that they are, but we also know that there are hidden people that would cause so much damage. We did come across people like that. So let me go just through a little bit of sort of pattern of things to put you where we are. So when we met, we were both underage in terms of a relationship. We were both in an illegal relationship because we were both 20. The age of consent was 21. So, and we'd also heard, I remember my mother speaking to a friend about what queers do in bed when I was about 12. That was about the time of the change of the Sexual Offences Act, which partially decriminalised homosexuality. So I knew from an early age who I was, what I was, and I knew that I couldn't say anything about it because it was dangerous, it was risky. And not only that, that if I knew people were calling other people names, and I knew people were being beaten up. One of my friends, if you can call him that, just to give you this is a personal sort of perspective on it, where I used to live, was actually among a few young people who murdered a gay man on a common nearby where I lived. And that set into me the sense of risk and danger. So, okay, so Tom and I met in 1975. It wasn't a place you could come out. I didn't come out of work until I was nearly 40, partly because there was no protection in my employment. I could have been lost my job. I could have been kicked out of my own home. In fact, my partner was, and I was kind of pushed away at an early age, but we met and we lived together, and it was fantastic. So what happened? So I'm going to come to the issues which I think are critical to what we're talking about here. What is it that's in your mind as a carer, in a gay couple? You've been through the horrors of the 60s and 70s and 80s, of course, with the advent of AIDS and what impact that had on the community. So one carer, I'm just going to pick out some little things. So I remember one day going to a Christmas party at my partner's. He worked for the NHS. And his boss said in front of us and in front of everybody else, if you dance with your boyfriend, I'll kill you. What I'm trying to tell you is things which add up, which make you very fearful. So we all want the care homes to be really good and supportive and loving and caring and understand us and not discriminate against us. But people going in over our age will have been through so many these kind of situations and experiences that the level of the desire to keep that hidden is incredibly, this is why we have problems with coaching people to come out and talk about their experiences, talk about when they're abused and so on, is because of a knowledge and experience of minority stress. It's what we've lived with, which stops that. So, okay, so the first thing that happened was we had an assessment by social services. 2 people came in with clipboards, sat down on a couch. Tom and I sat on another couch and spoke for an hour, got absolutely nowhere with them, but they were very nice up until the point that they left. And one left the front door, the other one turned around to me and said, "Oh, I suppose you thought we were going to take him away." Now, that could be comical in certain situations. For me, that was, my goodness me, yes, you are social services officers. If you think that I'm incapable of caring for my husband, you could take him away from me. You could actually instill that in your safety thing. This person is not capable of looking after her. I was terrified at that point. Can you imagine the impact, given a lifetime of all that we've lived through? She wasn't homophobic. I didn't know whether that was from homophobia, but it was certainly impactful in a negative way. And I think we need to coach people who do encounter people who might be anxious about their future and their situation to say, be aware. These people are very anxious, can be very anxious. What you say is very important, and you need to couch things carefully. Don't make assumptions. And when I go and speak in many, many places, that's one of the first things I say. Don't make an assumption, because people that have come into our house, dozens of nurses, dozens of people in the care job that I had, and almost none of them asked us, what relationship have you? Some made an assumption that was right, and some didn't. Some said, I think it's wonderful you're looking after your brother like that. I think it's wonderful you're looking after your father, and so on. Other thing, cousin, I've even had that. So so I thought, right, okay, I've got to get a carer because I can't do this all on my own. So I rang up a company. I've got 22 micro carers off of the local council. None of them had anything to say that they were ready to deal with people of minority community, not one of them. So I just thought, right, okay, randomly ring one or two, let's try it out. First one didn't want to know. Second, no, I didn't say anything about us being LGBTQ+. The other one said, yes, I'll come, let's have an interview. So she came and had an interview, and she sat down, and I'm sure this is very nice for some people, it looks and sounds nice. She said, I'm very excited because you're the first gay couple I've ever had to look after. And I thought, yeah, that's very sweet, but actually that means she knows nothing about our life. You know, what is her job. Looking after us is not about the fact that we're a gay couple, although on a personal level it is, but on a professional level, that shouldn't come into it. It should be, you're the person, or my husband is the person being cared for, I'm here to do a professional job. And this shouldn't be an issue in between all of that. So that's not a nasty, it wasn't an unpleasant thing. It's just another thing that says you're different from everybody else. I go to appointments with him in his wheelchair later in his care. And so often people would assume I'm only his carer, not his husband. Again, that defines, before you even start, it defines you as not associated with somebody, that there isn't a loving connection there. There isn't one where I would do anything, including, you know, put myself at risk for him, but it's not recognised because they don't, generally speaking, from hospitals, care and other statutory organisations and non-statutory, do not understand the relationship and the value and the meaning and the depth. And these are incredibly important because, you know, you go away from those, you think, well, should I next time, should I just keep quiet? Should I just say nothing? Should I? Because every time you say, no, actually, this is the situation, you get a barrage of questions and some misunderstanding. Oh, I see. So I am apparently, according to my experience, and I'm going to be a bit negative here, is I am Mr. and you are. That was the common thing. And you are? No, so there you go. Okay, there's one thing. Okay, I couldn't possibly go through the entire process and reveal everything that we went through, but I just want to just touch on a few things that happened. Okay, so let's go back to yes. Okay, forgive me because I've had a terrible weekend of a terrible back problem. I didn't do much of the preparation that I was going to do. So what are the other things? So okay, I'm going to come to end of life, but John, do wave when I get, because I'm very aware that my time is going to go. Do let me know. I'm going to jump around a little bit, but at the end of life care, and I know I heard somebody talk about that, it might be Arlene, about end of life care, and I've got very involved in that recently, in talking to hospices about that process. I'm doing a podcast tomorrow about it, and the reason is because this again was undermining our relationship. We slept in the same bed for 47 years. Okay. And at the time the hospice came in, I had no idea. When people said to me in couch terms, you know, you do realise he's very poorly, I didn't actually know what they meant. I didn't see that Tom was as ill as he was, because when you're with somebody who's ill for a long time, you do not see the progress. You only see it as kind of continuum. So they were saying that, and then they said, I think we ought to have the hospice in, and they ought to sit with him overnight. So I was pushed into this room behind me. That's my husband up there, by the way. You can't see him very well. And they sat in the room with him in the bed that I would normally sleep in with him overnight. And I sat in that room thinking, I can't sleep. I can't stay in here. And effectively, they were. Now, this may happen with heterosexual couples as well, but I wasn't asked if this was the way. Okay, yeah, I've got a note there. I wasn't asked if this was what I wanted. It was given to us. And I think another thing about all of this is, particularly for people in the LGBTQ plus community, is that you have to take control, because if you don't, this is all managed for you. You have to be really, really assertive about what you need, what you want, and about, you know, the what you don't want as well. And I found that if you don't do that, you give into this massive mechanism that works not in your favor, and you can thank you, and you can very easily find yourself not involved in your partner's care in a way that was kind of taking him away from me. That's what was happening. So these are kind of a bigger issues. Right, I'm going to jump around. So the other thing is that if you think that you can deal with at home the issue where you've got multiple people coming in the house almost daily to do what they need to do, injections and checks and feet and everything, is that you're dealing with dozens of people, and there isn't a continuum there in terms of their training and knowledge and awareness. So every time somebody comes in, you have to say, this is my husband, we've been together 47 years, we met in 1975. And I don't know, I got a bit tired of that, because the real issue was his health and the sanctity of our relationship, and the you know, it kind of impacted on that. Just because we're LGBTQ plus, we have to somehow excuse ourselves from all of the mainstream stuff and explain why we're different, what difference it is, and how we need to be approached. Now, there were some very kind and lovely, wonderful people, and I've met some incredible people through the journey, and very rarely met people, apart from these neurologists, unfortunately, and a few others, who were purposefully, and are not homophobic as in reportedly homophobic, but microaggressions, those kind of things. Now, this is another thing, is that you pick up on that very quickly, because you're in a highly stressful situation. You're caring for somebody that you love. You have responsibilities to them, and you have the stress and the sense and the knowledge of grief on top of all of that. Now, you add all of those things together in an unconventional relationship, grief, long-term partnerships, history of encountering, you know, homophobic abuse openly in public many times, and then you're in a situation where you don't know the knowledge. I'm not a trained carer. I learned that on the job, and trust me, it's one of the toughest jobs in the world, and most people will tell you that it is. But if you then have to, on top of that layer, and this is what this is all about, in my view, you have to explain yourself. You have to explain your background, your sexuality, your identity. As on top of all of that, in my view, that's too much to ask for people. We need to be at a place where 50 years on from when Tom and I met, and 60 coming years when the law changed, how many more decades do we have to wait for us to be mainstream, and for the LGBTQ-ness and our relationship not to be strange to people, so that we have to spend extra time worrying about it, being careful about it, being anxious about it, and having to explain it all? That's, I think I could probably end there, John, if that's about the timing. So that's where I am at the moment, and I do everything I can right now to try and change things as far as I personally can, and that's a commitment to my loving husband Tom, but it's a commitment to people who are having to deal with this today, right now. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for that moving speech, Mike, as well. So next, I'm going to introduce Janice Cameron.
Hi everybody, and first of all I'm going to start off with an apology. I went to the dentist this morning and they unexpectedly decided to give me a fill-in, so one side of my mouth is a bit numb, so excuse me if I sort of mumble. So yeah, my name's Janice Cameron and I'm one of the joint national leads in the Partners for Integration in Scottish Care, and Arlene's part of that team. I want to just talk a wee bit about Scottish Care and who we are, and then a bit about the Silver Pride event that Arlene and a couple of the speakers have mentioned. So I am delighted to be here today at the launch of what is a really remarkable resource, and I think really will shape the future of social care. And obviously that's that LGBTQ and Inclusivity and Ageing and Dementia resource. I know lots of you will already know who Scottish Care are and what we do, but just I would like to start by just talking a little bit about that, as I say, and then I'll go on to Silver Pride. So Scottish Care is a membership body. It is a think tank and social care futures designer. We are driven by unwavering commitment to social care values and guided by principles of respect, transparency, accountability, and we focus on collaborative partnership working to foster meaningful change, which links in to all of this. And every single member of our team is absolutely passionate, and I'm sure you've got that from Arlene. Through sort of storytelling rooted in evidence and lived experiences of our 350 members plus, we advocate for better care, and we draw upon the expertise of our members who represent 900 individual services across Scotland. Our services span residential, nursing, daycare, care at home and housing support, and we cover what I think is an impressive 76% of all social services in the country. We're supported by a team of 42, and I know sometimes I think Scottish Care thinks feels as if they've got somebody in every city and town across the UK, but we really are quite small, and we're from various backgrounds, and this serves as the foundation of our efforts for the team. We drive various thematic work streams, and that includes our Partners for Integration initiative. And as we've said, Arlene plays a pivotal role, and this is the independent sector lead in East Ayrshire. Partners for Integration team's inception was 2012, and this initiative has been instrumental in promoting collaboration across the independent sector. It's this unwavering dedication to partnership and shared purpose that drives us to achieve a systemic change. It gives us a platform to challenge our assumptions of social care and those who are in receipt of it. And obviously, this is what we're talking about today. So one of the most memorable milestones that I've been privileged to be involved in recently was that Scotland's inaugural Older Adult Silver Pride event. And that was obviously held in collaboration with East Ayrshire Health and Social Care Partnership. I had the privilege of attending this event along with 187 attendees, which was absolutely incredible, and representatives from 30 community organisations. It was an occasion filled with celebration, insight, and the collective resolve to bring diversity and equality to the forefront of adult care. And as Arlene said earlier on, it was funded by the National Lottery Community Fund, which Arlene applied to. And the Silver Pride emphasised the importance of recognising the unique needs and sexual identities of older adults, an area that has long been overlooked in social care. And I have to say, my background is in nursing, acute nursing, and I would say, it's the same for that. It was a day of fun, celebration and inclusion, but also people feeling empowered to make change and live how they wish. It was a great day. We got lots of nice food and we got a chance to dance, which was fantastic. The event was more than just a celebration. It was a call to action. And the comprehensive social care resource being launched today was born as a direct result of Silver Pride and represents a real critical step forward. The resource, as you will find out today, and that's how I'm not going to speak for very much longer, because I think it's more important that you get to talk about the resource. And you'll find out today it's available both online and in print, and it equips care providers with the tools to honour the sexual rights of older adults. It really does send a powerful message that we're committed to creating an environment where individuals can be their authentic selves. And again, Arlene mentioned that, and knowing they are safe with us. And Arlene was great, had some lovely badges made up with exactly that slogan. So the launch of the LGBTQ+ Inclusivity and Ageing and Dementia training course today continues with this vital work. With historical discrimination and unconscious bias leaving many LGBTQ+ individuals facing mistrust, isolation, vulnerability, this resource comes at a pivotal time for our sector. Ageing should never mean hiding one's identity, and this course addresses the challenges head-on, providing frontline workers with the knowledge and skills to ensure tailored, inclusive care. So I would invite you all to join us in embracing this transformative resource. Let's celebrate the trailblazers who brought it to life, learn from the experiences shared today, and renew our commitment to ensuring dignity, respect and inclusivity for all those who rely on social care services. And just to finish, I would like to borrow one of the kind of mission statements from Scottish Care, and it is, together we can build a social care sector that is valued, viable, visible and visionary. And the fact that I've had half my mouth is numb, I think I'll give myself a pat in the back. So as I say, thank you very much for inviting me to be involved in this, and thank you to all the speakers that have gone before. It really concentrate the mind. And on a slightly different subject, when we talk about discrimination, just thinking about some of the things that Mike has talked about. I married a man who was 16 years older than me, and people make assumptions that this is my father, or that we went to an optician's recently and the person spoke to me about what my husband needed in glasses. And I think assumptions, yeah, dreadful. But thank you for inviting me along, and that's all.
Thanks very much, Janice, and thank you for coming along, even though your mouth is all swollen today. Sorry about that. Can I just add as well, Mike? Mike, that was so passionate. You obviously came along and spoke to East Ayrshire's care home managers and social workers some months ago, and that got them all really, really fired up about this resource, you know, and what we're bringing to it. And just for the wider knowledge, I suppose Mike has wrote a really, really moving chapter in this book that I hope you'll all have the opportunity to read. Dave, I'm going to pass it over to you, and thanks very much.
Yep, so we hope that you've found the webinar today. We're finished kind of quite a bit ahead of schedule, which is always a good thing. It gives us the gift of time, doesn't it? So thank you all so much. It's been so lovely to see people even networking in the chat whilst people have been speaking and sharing other bits and bobs of resources, and just generally, I suppose, viewing this as giving it the recognition that it deserves. I think I can't necessarily speak on behalf of Arlene and John, but I think there was that element of nerves for all three of us, that when we were putting this together, how will it be viewed? How will people see this resource? And will it truly make a difference, or is it just going to be another resource that's out there that people can have access to? But you can be sure that with a combination of all the incredible people that have contributed to the resource, as well as if you decided to come to the in-person training, or we're going to be looking at putting some dates out online, it's about setting that challenge and getting us all thinking differently about our practice and how we can go out there and make a difference. Mike's speaking was just incredible, and it brings even a lot to me as an openly gay man who's been married to my husband now for 11 years. There's just this part of what will it look like for us in the future, but if it weren't for people like Mike, then it would be so much more difficult. So thank you so much, Mike, for sharing that. We will send an email out after the webinar has been concluded at some point, just with our contact details should you have any particular questions, and also dates in which we've allocated for the training itself. So please just feel free to get in touch with us. You can also reach out to the Dementia Services Development Centre website as well and send any inquiries that way. But on behalf of Arlene and John and everybody else, thank you so much for taking the time to spend it with us this morning, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.